Welcome to the Brookshire Brothers Basic HACCP Training. First off, what is HACCP? HACCP stands for Hazard Analysis and Critical Control Points. HACCP is a management system in which food safety is addressed through the analysis and control of biological, chemical, and physical hazards, from raw material production, procurement, and handling, to manufacturing, distribution, and consumption of the finished product. Biological hazards include bacteria, parasites, and viruses. Chemical hazards include unlabeled allergens, cleaning products, food additives, or insecticides. Finally, physical hazards include bandages, jewelry, glass, plastic, metal, or packing materials. Since the 1960s, food safety professionals have recognized the importance of HACCP principles for controlling risk factors that directly contribute to foodborne illness. The principles of HACCP embody the concept of active managerial control by encouraging participation in a system that ensures foodborne illness risk factors are controlled. HACCP is not a standalone program, but is built upon a foundation of operational practices called prerequisite programs. The success of a HACCP plan is dependent both upon the facility and the people that work in the facility. The facilities and equipment should be designed to facilitate safe food preparation and handling practices by employees. It is also recommended that managers and employees be properly motivated and trained if a HACCP program is to successfully reduce the occurrence of foodborne illness risk factors. For the successful implementation of this HACCP plan, Brookshire Brothers knows that both management and every employee must be strongly committed to the HACCP concept. A firm commitment to HACCP by top management provides Brookshire Brothers employees with a sense of importance of producing safe food. HACCP is a systematic approach to the identification, evaluation, and control of food safety hazards based on the following 7 principles. Conduct a hazard analysis. Determine the critical control points. Establish critical limits. Establish monitoring procedures. Establish corrective actions. Establish verification procedures. Finally, establish record-keeping and documentation procedures. Your Brookshire Brothers food safety team has already conducted the hazard analysis for the meat plant. Therefore, we will focus on our critical control points, our critical limits, monitoring procedures, corrective actions, verification procedures, and record keeping. A critical control point is a step in which control can be applied and is essential to prevent or eliminate a food safety hazard or reduce it to an acceptable level. The potential hazards that are reasonably likely to cause illness or injury in the absence of their control must be addressed in determining CCPs. Critical control points are located at any step where hazards can either be prevented, eliminated, or reduced to acceptable levels. Examples of CCPs may include testing ingredients for chemical residues, product formulation control, testing product for metal contaminants and refrigeration of products. Since we are processing raw intact and non-tacked beef, intact pork, and intact poultry, the hazards we are trying to prevent, eliminate, or reduce to an acceptable level include the hazards listed on the screen here. A critical limit is a maximum and/or minimum value to which a biological, chemical, or physical parameter must be controlled at a CCP to prevent, eliminate, or reduce to an acceptable level the occurrence of a food safety hazard. Each CCP will have one or more control measures to assure that the identified hazards are prevented, eliminated, or reduced to acceptable levels. Each control measure has one or more associated critical limit. Critical limits may be based upon factors such as temperature, time, physical dimensions, humidity, moisture level, water activity, pH or acidity. Critical limits must be scientifically based. We use temperature control as a critical limit. For example, The internal temperature of the raw meat products should be at 41 degrees Fahrenheit or below. If the internal product temperature is above 41 degrees Fahrenheit, then it must return to below 41 degrees Fahrenheit within a designated amount of time, based on scientific research known as the Topkin paper. Product temperatures should be monitored at receiving, during storage, processing, packaging, and transporting. If you believe a product temperature has exceeded 41 degrees Fahrenheit, you should notify your supervisor immediately. Monitoring is a planned sequence of observations or measurements to assess whether a CCP is under control and to produce an accurate record for future use and verification. Monitoring serves three main purposes. First, monitoring is essential to food safety management in that it facilitates tracking of the operation. If monitoring indicates that there has been a trend towards loss of control, then action can be taken to bring the process back into control before a deviation from a critical limit occurs. Second, monitoring is used to determine when there is a loss of control and a deviation occurs at a CCP. For example, exceeding or not meeting a critical limit. When a deviation occurs, an appropriate corrective action must be taken. Third, it provides written documentation for use and verification. The raw meat product temperatures will be measured by a designated employee at the start of each lot using a calibrated thermometer. The raw meat internal temperature will be taken again after the last of the product is packaged and placed in the cooler. A final internal temperature will be measured when the product is refrigerated to show that the temperature was 41 degrees Fahrenheit or lower within the critical limit time. Temperature monitoring will be done at least once for each product grouping done on each production day. The designated meat plant employee will record the internal raw meat product temperature on the product temperature log. The designated meat plant employee will also make sure the thermometer is properly calibrated and record on the thermometer calibration log. All records and documents associated with CCP monitoring should be dated and signed or initialed by the person doing the monitoring. We should be monitoring internal product temperatures as well as the processing room temperature at the start of each lot and at the end of each lot by the designated meat plant employee using a calibrated thermometer. A corrective action is a procedure that is followed when a deviation occurs. A deviation is failure to meet a critical limit. The HACCP System for Food Safety Management is designed to identify health hazards and to establish strategies to prevent, eliminate, or reduce their occurrence. However, ideal circumstances do not always prevail, and deviations from established processes may occur. An important purpose of corrective actions is to prevent foods, which may be hazardous, from reaching our customers. Where there is a deviation from established critical limits, corrective actions are necessary. If a raw meat internal product temperature is measured above 41 degrees Fahrenheit, corrective actions should be taken immediately. An example of corrective actions might include checking the ambient air temperature of the cooler to make sure it is holding at 41 degrees Fahrenheit or below, and if not, a work order must be sent in to the maintenance department to dispatch refrigeration services immediately. The meat plant manager or assistant manager must determine if the product has been held above 41 degrees Fahrenheit for too long. If the product has been held at 41 degrees or above for too long, it must be discarded and documented on loss records. If the product has not been held above 41 degrees Fahrenheit for too long, then the product must be relocated to another refrigeration unit where it can maintain safe temperatures until the unit is repaired and it can safely return to the cold holding unit. Verification is defined as those activities other than monitoring that determine the validity of the HACCP plan and that the system is operating according to that plan. One aspect of verification is evaluating whether the meat plant's HACCP system is functioning according to the HACCP plan. An effective HACCP system requires little end product testing, since sufficient validated safeguards are built in early in the process. Therefore, rather than relying on end product testing, we should rely on frequent reviews of our HACCP plan. verification that the HACCP plan is being correctly followed, and frequent reviews of CCP monitoring and corrective action records. Generally, the records maintained for the HACCP system should include the following: a summary of the hazard analysis, including the rationale for determining hazards and control measures, the HACCP plan, supporting documentation such as validation records that are generated during the operation of the plan. Examples of HACCP records include ingredients for which critical limits have been established, supplier certification records documenting compliance of an ingredient with the critical limit, processor audit records verifying supplier compliance, storage records for when ingredient storage is a CCP, processing, storage, and distribution records, information that establishes the efficacy of a CCP to maintain product safety, data establishing the safe shelf life of the product if age of product can affect safety, records indicating compliance with critical limits when packaging materials, labeling, or sealing specifications are necessary for food safety, monitoring records, verification records, deviation and corrective action records, employees' training records that are pertinent to CCPs and the HACCP plan, documentation of the adequacy of the HACCP plan from a knowledgeable HACCP expert. The successful implementation of a HACCP plan is achieved by commitment from top management and every employee involved with the production process. Application of the HACCP system involves the continual execution of the monitoring, record-keeping, corrective action procedures, and other activities as described in the HACCP plan. Maintaining an effective HACCP system depends largely on regularly scheduled verification activities. The HACCP plan should be updated and revised as necessary. An important aspect of maintaining the HACCP system is to assure that all individuals involved are properly trained so they understand their role and can effectively fulfill their responsibilities. The goal in applying HACCP principles in our meat plan is to have you take purposeful actions to ensure safe food. At Berkshire Brothers, we have a common objective in mind: providing safe, quality food to our customers.